Hey folks, my name is Jürgen, aka Nerd and Proud of It, and Destiny has brought you to my channel today to talk about the fact that artists have not been informed about the 30th anniversary edition. I recently had the pleasure to have a chat with the kind and lovely Brenda Maddocks, wife and business manager of Anson Maddocks, who is responsible for some of the most iconic Magic the Gathering art out there from the early days. We had a chat about many interesting subjects, and I will release the video with the full conversation with Brenda soon, but today we are focusing and zooming in on the 30th anniversary edition part of the conversation. And that includes something that has never been talked before up until now, because nobody was looking at the whole thing from that angle. It might be possible that Wizards of the Coast printed the 30th anniversary edition to secure rights to their most iconic artwork. So the real question is, did they print the 30th with only profit in mind, or was there more to the story? Let's hear what Brenda and I were speculating about.
Our main talking point today is the 30th anniversary edition, which contains, of course, a lot of the old art, basically old beta artwork. And I think you mentioned it's like 30 pieces of Anson's art in there, right? Or even more. It's a lot.
Yeah, 30. So he did a full 10% of the first edition.
10% of the first edition. That's a massive amount of artwork. But we got to talk about this. And I remember when people were saying, like, yeah, there is no chance the artists didn't know about the 30th anniversary edition coming. And you got some interesting insights, of course, and then we got to talk and we thought, like, yeah, maybe it's interesting to share these insights with others as well. And that's why we had the idea to record this video. But how did you both get to know about the 30th anniversary edition?
So we found out about it the same way everybody else did when we saw the video them announcing it on YouTube. So we had no prior knowledge at all. They didn't contact us or communicate with us about it, and that's true for all the artists I've spoken to. Nobody knew.
And you still have contact with a lot of them because you all are friends, like at least like the core group of artists, right?
Sure. I mean, obviously, not everybody, all of the artists, but yeah, a good portion. So it was pretty surprising that it didn't. Yeah. And for us, well, it's a little bit different. I feel like, well, they're not obligated to tell us beforehand to discuss things like they're going to use our art in a product. They have the right to do that without asking us permission.
Okay.
But in our case, I'm sorry, I could pass that. I'm just not sure how to talk about the legal stuff, as far as...
Well, you don't have to talk about the legal stuff at all if you don't want to. I think it's better, especially looking at Wizards of the Coast and what they are doing at the moment and how they are doubling down on legal issues. So no worries at all. But yeah, but you obviously didn't know about it. They didn't tell you, and they're not obliged to. But in general, it's kind of strange that they didn't inform the artists about the fact that they were using a lot of their artwork, right? I believe normally it would be like even a courtesy to tell you guys about the reprint of the set before. And I assume when it happened, you always knew when the things were reprinted, right?
Sure. I mean, yeah, Anson definitely did. It was sort of out of the blue and really surprising for us. I mean, I just to learn about it at the same time as the general public was a bit of a shock.
Yeah,
And
it's. I mean, it's your work in there, and his work, and yeah, it's just not polite not to tell you to say it right.
I-
And yeah, in general, what else would be really interesting is not only the fact that you didn't know, but the reaction you told me about how you guys felt about it. And that's of course not associated with any legal stuff, especially the high price, the experiences of opening such a pack and finding a common, because Anson had a lot of comments. I think that's very interesting. How did that make you feel? How did that make Anson feel?
well, the thing for us that was really hard to take was that there's a provision in our contract that goes way back to the early 90s. Obviously, the relationship between some of the early artists and Wizards of the Coast involved a royalties contract, and so at the time that just prior to to Wizards of the Coast merging with Hasbro, they were doing things to sort of tidy up their intellectual property. So as a business, it's better if you own all of your intellectual property. It makes things more attractive to somebody potentially wants to buy your business and know that you own and control all of your intellectual property. And so in an effort to do that, the Wizards of the Coast offered to buy out the royalty rights from the artists, and so some artists did that. It did actually sell, and Anson was not among them. He chose to retain his royalty rights. But they, around the same time, also renegotiated the contracts. Instead of having a whole bunch of different individual contracts, they wanted to have one sort of governing for continuity's sake. And so there was a period of several months where the artists were meeting frequently with the lawyers and trying to hammer out the terms of the new contract. And what they asked for several concessions from the artist, and which in the end the artist ended up giving to Wizards of the Coast. But part of that was that an agreement that if they were no longer using the property, the illustrations, and they weren't making royalties, earning royalties from it, that after 5 years, that the intellectual property would return back to the artist,
Okay.
so that they could do what they wanted to do with it, and for it to be productive. They wanted to keep the assets generating revenue. So if it wasn't benefiting one party or both parties, then the artist could then do what they wanted with it. So
That was part of the agreement.
that was part of the agreement. Yeah. And
For me,
so
for you, that's probably does make a lot of sense, because it is Anson's artwork, and then at a certain point, if it's not used anymore, indeed the rights should go back to the artist. I think that's a very common practice. They haven't reprinted it in quite a while, longer than 5 years, except for the 30th, of course. But before that, have you asked them officially to return the rights of the artwork?
yes, we did. We started a conversation with them in 2016, I believe, and they basically have denied the request to have it returned. And
Did they give you any explanation or any reason why?
they said that they were, despite not paying royalties and it not being used in a product, they said because we're displaying it on our website, The Gatherer, they claim that was use of the product. And so I was really shocked that
Yes, I am too, because that's a bit ridiculous. So they used the usage of the artwork on Gatherer as an excuse to not return the artwork to you.
yes, yeah.
But they didn't pay you any royalties or revenue or whatever for that usage.
No. And what is interesting about that is that in the contract, it doesn't even refer to promotional use because it's not really relevant if it's not generating royalties, and it's sort of outside of the scope of the royalties contract. So I mean, they're free to use in advertising or promotional use, as they see fit. But I would think that use would include a product or a third-party licensing of the art. But I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, so maybe I'm not understanding it fully. But that seems reasonable to me. And so, as far as I know, we are the only artists that actually exercise that provisional clause or try to rather exercise that. And so for us, it was as we're still trying to pursue working something out with them, and that was really surprising that they went ahead and published the artwork, because of course once the artwork is published in a product such as the 30th anniversary edition, then of course that is very clear and obvious according to the contract. So it seems like maybe they were trying to hold onto the intellectual property, that maybe using it was a way to and a means to an end, perhaps. I'm just guessing because I don't really know, since they haven't communicated with us. Yeah.
That's what we do here. We just give our opinions, and that's totally fine. And that's of course speculative, and nobody's gonna hold you to your opinion in that case. But I think it's a very interesting opinion, because nobody has talked about that before. Everybody's talking about they want to make a lot of money, but nobody has talked about the fact that maybe they were afraid to lose the rights to their most iconic pieces of artwork, their most iconic cards. And maybe they were afraid losing those cards forever, because it would go back to artists. And I don't know, you say you are probably one of the few ones or the only one that held out that long and didn't give up their rights. But if there are a couple more, you never know. It's iconic cards, it's game pieces everybody recognizes, and I believe if they never would be able to use certain cards again, you mentioned the Black Lotus, but it can be one of Anson's cards as well, of course, it would be a very negative thing for them, because everybody recognizes these cards, and these cards represent the game, and then they don't own those anymore. So I think it's a very interesting perspective. So by printing this 30th anniversary edition, you can't exercise that right of asking the artwork back anymore. Do you still have it? Okay. Do you still have the case like, hey, but we asked before you printed it? Or is that something that's gone now?
Well, I think that it should be a factor, and I'm hoping that it will play a role, because I mean, I know for sure that it at least put it on their radar that, if they're doing this, perhaps other artists might be interested in the same thing, and so they probably would not prefer that not happen, and so they I don't know. Like I said, it's a lot of guessing, but it sure appears that they had other motives just by the way they went about things, to not let the artist know, to not include us in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Or the discussion is, I think it's kind of,
Suspicious.
suspicious. It looks suspicious. And, yeah. And
Yeah. It's a real possibility, I think. They probably thought, hey, we could make money out of this, but if their goal was to just secure the cards and maybe make a little extra money on top of it, fine. But yeah, I think it's a real possibility, and it's very suspicious the way they went about it, because they were very secretive about everything. And you learned when everybody else learned, when they made the press release, and everyone was like, what? So yeah, there was no time or no chance to act anymore on it. Are you planning to take action on it in the future?
yeah, we're actively pursuing working something out with them. They have, in the past, they have expressed the possibility of being open to doing a buyout of future royalty rights, and so that could be a possible resolution to all of this. But we have had a couple of bumps in the road as far as getting someone to represent us, because I just think it would be good to have somebody who specializes in intellectual property law to help us through this. So if anybody out there who's happens to know somebody, we're actively seeking representation. So
Yeah, Hasbro, of course, has a big law department, and let's make an official shout out indeed to people who are specialized in intellectual property law. Maybe they can contact you. You guys got a website, of course, so you're easy to find and easy to contact. And otherwise, they always can contact me as well, of course, and I will relay the request. But if there's somebody out there that can help you, let's hope that person makes himself or herself known.